Kitco News special coverage of PDAC 2024 is brought to you by Gold Mining, Uranium Energy Corp, and Uranium Royalty Corp.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeremy Szafron. Thanks for joining us here at our coverage of the PDAC 2024 conference in Toronto, Canada. Now the energy is buzzing here at the show. And first up, we're joined by Terry Lynch, CEO of Power Nickel and the founder of Save Canadian Mining. Now, it's an initiative advocating for the protection of investor rights and market fairness in the Canadian mining sector. In the wake of GameStop incident back in the U.S., the subsequent SEC rules demanding increased transparency in that where institutions are now required to report short positions and lending activities. Now, Terry argues that similar measures are needed in Canada. To find out why, we're joined by Terry.
Well, great to be here.
Terry is the CEO of Power Nickel, and he's also the founder of Save Canadian Mining, which we're going to be talking a little bit. But before we do that, I'm curious, there's a lot of buzz in the room. I want to talk a little bit about commodities sector, specifically, obviously, Power Nickel, the Canadian nickel space, and what you're seeing.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of negativity out there on the nickel with respect to, last year was a pretty savage year for nickel. I would argue the worst is in, and you can see nickel's bouncing back now. So I think the nickel market's made of various sub-markets. So there's nickel Asia, nickel Europe, and nickel North America.
Right.
So nickel North America is short. So, there's a lot of demand for class 1 nickel in North America. You saw, I think a pretty significant commitment from Samsung to Canada Nickel. They have cheaper alternatives for nickel in Indonesia, but they chose to make a significant, plus $100 million investment commitment to Canada Nickel in Canada for a low grade nickel sulfide project that they'll work their way through. But
right.
It shows the need to get class 1 IRA compliant nickel in North America.
Yeah.
I think that people need to recognize that the North American nickel market is a little bit different. And as a result, there's opportunities. And I think Power Nickel's definitely got one of them.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, obviously, it's commodities sector, so it's cyclical. We've seen this with lithium, alternative battery metals. There was that talk about the EV space kind of, being maybe bigger than it was. And then we've seen a little bit of a decline in the lithium space. I'm curious, now that we've seen a balancing act and people are realizing, okay, there's a demand here, is that space going to continue? Where do you think nickel will go in the next year? I mean, you said short, but maybe we still need it.
Yeah, I think that nickel in the next year is going to be largely determined by the Russian question. So if they ban Russian nickel, it probably goes up. I think fundamentally supply and demand really doesn't come in to balance without any sort of ban probably for the next couple of years. Right. So probably it's going to trade in a range between 17 to 20,000. But if you're looking sort of say for the Power Nickels of the world, we're looking at producing probably as early as 28, most likely 29. The demand out there looks really good. So I would think at that stage, you're probably looking at, somewhere between 20 and 25.
Interesting.
And that's super healthy. And then the other thing is are you just going to be a miner or are you going to be a refiner? Right. And the refining is really where the money is in nickel. Nickel powders are getting $80,000 a ton today. That's the business you want to be in.
Let's talk about Save Canadian Mining. I mean, it's an interesting take. It's something that you're very passionate about. I know that there's a lot of junior miners that feel the same way. First, explain to the audience a little background on shorting stock, obviously betting against a company, and how that's affecting the juniors, and then we'll get more into it here.
Sure. So short selling is just basically taking the other side of the trade, where you sort of say, I think, as an example, Power Nickel is run by an imbecile and it's going to go down.
Right.
So I'm going to sell, I'm going to borrow a stock from my broker and sell it and hope that I'll buy it back later for a cheaper price, make a profit. So that's just taking the other side of the capitalist trade. Save Canadian Mining is not against short selling.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
What we're against is when you do that and you don't disclose it's a short sell. And you basically market as a long sale, and then the market doesn't know what to make of that sale. It thinks, hey, maybe there is something wrong with Power Nickel, and maybe we should sell too. So what happens is that you get a lot of piggyback selling, and this has happened, unfortunately, in the space since about 2012 when they got rid of the tick test.
Right.
So it's now reached epidemic proportions, and it's probably vaporized $40 billion worth of capital.
Wow. Okay, in a space that is so capital extensive, and obviously right now the cost of capital is quite expensive out there, the legitimate companies seem to still have access to it. Talk to me about the juniors and how much this has affected them in the past couple of years and what the intentions are here.
Yeah, so just take an example from the Power Nickel page. I mean, we're lucky in that we're based in Quebec, and so the government's got some amazing incentives between the provincial and federal governments So you're able to get 2-for-1 exploration dollars there. So we've been able to finance on that basis, reasonably constructive basis. But I mean, my friends that are outside of Quebec, not nearly as lucky, or maybe they're in gold, man, their stocks have been killed.
Right.
And the more they're killed, the less likely it is they can get financed, because it's like, how do you get constructive? So if you look at the charts on most of these mining companies, they look like they're dead.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because many of them have very great discoveries, and their valuations should be several times higher. So, but I wouldn't want to leave the audience with a feeling that it's over.
Right.
I think, when I was at Vancouver Resources Investment Conference, I basically called the bottom. I said, now's the time to get off half your wallet. And the reason why I really passionately believe that is that I believe this short selling issue is going to be dealt with. The Koreans shut it down. India, Hong Kong, there's a lot of pressure in the States. We're going to build a lot of mounting pressure at Safe Canadian Mining. We're going to be focusing on a program called Ban the Bots. The bots that are trading under short exempt status, which is absolutely insane.
Explain this to our audience. So short exempts and also naked shorting. I mean, just that whole 5 minutes before the market closes, you get bashed.
Yeah. So in order to trade bot to bot, or when you do that, you automatically apply or qualify for a short exempt status. Right. So that means you can go short a stock and not have any borrow. So that's really what's causing the short problem. Okay, so these guys are supposed to directionally be neutral, not trade with a negative bias, but clearly they do. You only have to look at Citadel and Virtue's balance sheet to know that that's a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, this happens in the last 5 minutes of the game when long buyers really can't play. Like if I tried to close my power nickel stock up, I'd be in jail.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens.
Yeah.
Yep. 7 successive days in a row, they can do the CIBC kiss and tick me down every day. And it's like, it's insane.
Yeah.
And it's not just the power nickel, it's 200 power nickels out there.
How behind are the Canadian regulators on this? You talked a little bit specifically about other places in the world that don't allow for it, China being the latest. Are we behind?
We're behind. And in fact, self-regulatory systems, in my opinion, don't work. We're basically got the fox in charge of the chicken house. They can't stop themselves from eating chickens.
Right.
So, do I think Cyril's doing a good job? I think they do a good job of regulating companies to make sure we don't make outlandish claims and, file 43101s right and do those sorts of things. But I think they do a terrible job of looking after these illegal naked short sellers.
Right.
And they need to wake up.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, as you mentioned, we're in a capital-extensive industry, and there's a lot of people that have put money into the industry and obviously don't bring it back out. That's part of the risk. When you talk to somebody and they say, listen, I have the right to short that company because it's BS, the company is not saying what they want, that's not what you're against
That's
here.
not what we're against.
So let's talk a little bit about the specifics into what you're looking for with Safe Canadian Mining.
Okay, so basically what we're looking for, number one, is we want a ban on the bots.
Yeah.
Okay, so the bots under $1 billion. This should not trouble anyone. There's nothing positive these guys are creating. They're not creating liquidity. They're not creating price discovery. They're basically just harvesting our hard-earned dollars. Right. They're stopping investment in the industry. They're stopping job creation. They're stopping taxes. Okay, stopping that needs to be everyone's number one objective. Okay, so that's it. And then second, what about price transparency?
Yeah.
How about having one tape in Canada? How crazy is it? Power Nickel, little company, okay? Got a great project. We hope to be many big things, but we're a little company right now. 60% of our trading is not on our main exchange. Do you know that only people that trade on the dark exchanges are institutional and traders? Why are they trading Power Nickel?
Yeah.
60%. Only the regular investors are on the TSXV.
Right.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just a corrupt system right now. So it's no wonder investors have left the system in drove. But, in a way, it's like, I remember Rick Rule saying about cure for low prices is low prices. Well, we're there.
Yeah.
We're at the low. And honestly, I think we will turn the tide on this banning the bots. And if we do that, mining is going to have the biggest boom in history. And what I'm saying to people is that you should be, if you can't get comfortable on making an individual bet on the power nickels of the world or critical elements or whatever your favorite junior miner is, because it's like, hey, you're betting on one, buy the sector. There's a lot of great mining funds out there. BT Global, Palace Capital, CI, McKinsey. Right. They've got great funds. They're great fund managers. They know what they're doing. Trust your money with them. They will make you money. And that will help the sector too. And you wouldn't miss it, because what I've seen it so often, investors, and I've done it myself, where you know a story, it's fundamentally good, and you think, well, I think it might still go lower, because we're all greedy. And you think, I could buy it at 25 cents, but I think it might be going to 22 on the charts.
Right.
So I'm waiting, but you know what? I'm telling you, you're going to miss it because the big move in investing is to go from bad to less bad. We're about to make that move. You know what I mean? And I think people need to, and if they can't get into the individual stocks for various reasons, they get into the funds because at least you'll get that part of it. You won't feel like you missed it.
Correct. How bad and how terrible is the valuations compared to commodity prices? I mean, you look at the commodity prices around, they're not that bad.
Listen, the biggest gap in history, I think, you know, in terms of the break between, the commodity prices and the underlying equities. So that in itself should, that's why when people say, well, how do you know this actually exists? I'm saying, well, the evidence is very clear.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got now micro evidence where we actually have bona fide evidence that's won court cases or won settlements in 11 cases in the court of law. So we have that now too for the first time in history. But look at the macro. You got basically commodity prices, probably 75, 80% of the all-time high, and TSXV and CSE all-time low. Just doesn't make sense.
So, I mean, with you Save Canadian Mining, you're talking to a lot of people in the industry. Tell me about your peers. Are people excited about this? What's some feedback you've been hearing?
You know what? Yeah, we had a call just around Christmas time with Black Friday. Eric Sprott came on the call. Eric's been a big founder, been essential part of our push, and he's the biggest mining investor out there. And we had a bunch of the people like Share Intel, and what's interesting now, I alluded to it before, is technology exists now where we can actually prove this. This is not now, silver, conspiracy theorist by Terry. Terry's that bad guy. No, it's like we got legit proof that's been used as evidence, accepted as evidence. So we had 96 executives on that call. Okay, so yeah, I've got a lot of people interested in joining the campaign. Honestly, my biggest challenge is that Power Nickel's been more than enough. I mean, I'm busier than crap on that, and it's my paying gig, and I've got like 20% of my savings in it. This is everything. I own not much of it, so I've obviously got to commit to that. That's what I'm being paid to do. But we're trying to, we're going to be doing some more things recently or coming up on Save Canadian Mining to push this message out, and we're going after the politicians. Okay. The politicians are the key to this thing because they're on the wrong side of this trade right now. And we're going to bring it home to them. We're going to say, you need to ban the bots. It's a simple thing. Get after it. If you don't ban the bots, then we're going to vote against you. We're going to vote for the guy that's going to ban the bots. Right. And we're going to take that message to them strong. We hope they support it because it's a win-win. We're going to enable our investors to make money. We're going to enable companies to access capital at fair rates so they can grow and hire people. We're going to create billions of dollars worth of tax paid for the government. And listen, mines can't move to China, So it's like, the politicians are the key because the regulators are asleep. They won't change unless the politicians force them.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, if you're having these conversations with CEOs of these companies and they're very excited about what you're doing, what do the regulators say? Are they listening to you? Do they want to sit down?
You know what? They'll always sit down with you, but they don't do anything. We lobbied for 2.5, 3 years with Save Canadian Mining, got nowhere. They basically would say, oh yeah, we'll look into it, blah, blah, blah. And it's so insane. It's like when we filed our formal complaint with FINRA and CIRO for Power Nickel, it's a body of work we've spent $50,000 putting together. No small undertaking. I'd much rather put that into a drill hole. Nonetheless, we put that in there. It's evidence, okay? And they send us back a one-pager saying, we won't talk to you anymore about this. We acknowledge receipt. I mean, how is that justice? Where's the transparency? Yeah. Like, wake up, people. I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah, it's kind of unheard of. I'm curious, talking a little bit about this year, what are your intentions? What do you think is going to happen in the sector? And how can our audience learn more?
So on the short selling, they could learn more by going to Save Canadian Mining and register there because we're going to get active. We're going to need their help, and we're going to make you a lot of money if you help us. Because that's number one.
Good call to action.
That's that's nailed it on the head. And then I think the other thing we're going to start to do is we're going to start to see, we've got some individual tactics that we're trying, like Power Nickel as an example is spinning out a private copper gold company that used to trade at the same market cap as Power Nickel today. Okay. So it's a significant asset. It's going to be private. Why are we doing that? Well, because they can't fake private DRS. So the only people that are going to get, that dividend are the people that can show our transfer agent they actually own the stock. If they don't own the stock, even despite what their broker director says, they won't get the dividend. Yeah. Because that's what happens with naked shorting, right? It's counterfeit shares. So if Power Nickel has 150 million shares out, maybe there's 250 million out. Okay, so obviously I can't.
Which is bananas.
Which is crazy. But
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it from GameStop. We see it with AMC. I mean, this is the reality, what's happening. And there's a case in the States right now. I encourage people to watch it, check it out on maybe Kitco knows about it, MMTLP. Do you know that one?
I do.
Yeah. It's a profound case.
Yeah.
I think what FINRA and SEC have allowed to happen there is mind-blowing, but I think Congress is onto them now.
Yeah, it's being looked at, by the way.
Yeah. And it's basically privatizing to do exactly what we're trying to do with Power Nickels. Say, hey, you can't fake this. Because they figured out how to paper it over if I spin it out on another pubco. They've figured out how to do that. I don't know how, but I mean, and again, the shorters are the smartest guys in the room. They're making the most money. They can hire the best guys. They got the best programmers. And my message to those guys is, guys, you've made a ton of money, okay? But you need to now switch to the other side because we're going to come and get you. And at the end of the day, we don't want to kill these guys, although part of me does. But the reality is, killing them would kill the system.
Of course.
And that's not in anybody's best interest. But what they need to do is they need to get to the long side of the trade. But they're not going to go there willingly because it's been like shooting fish in the barrel for many, many years now. And so they're addicted to this, crack cash.
Yeah.
And we need to stop that.
And you make the money and you know where it goes if you follow it.
Yeah.
Terry Lynch, thank you for coming on. I appreciate
Great
explaining this. And thank you for joining us. Of course, we're just kicking off our coverage of PDAC 2024. We're going to have much, much more coming. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.
Kitco News special coverage of PDAC 2024 is brought to you by Gold Mining, Uranium Energy Corp, and Uranium Royalty Corp.